In my experience, the Camus archetype is either loved or hated. But why does such a disparity of opinions exist? I believe the reason why is because it is one of the greatest symbols of humanity in the Fire Emblem franchise. Before we continue, we must define what the Camus archetype is. If you've been a part of the Fire Emblem fandom for a while, then you probably already know. However, for those who don't, here's what it is. The Camus archetype is based on the Paladin Camus, first appearing in the first Fire Emblem game. Camus-type characters tend to be honorable enemy generals who harbor no personal hatred towards the player's army, and though they might disagree with the actions of their lords, they will nonetheless fight the player out of a great sense of loyalty or for other personal reasons. They are unrecruitable, and may be the most compassionate enemies the player might face. Details on this definition are arguable, though it won't matter much for this video. All you need to know is a general idea of what it is. Though it has its supporters, characters of this archetype are often despised for continuing to side with the usually obvious wrong side, either because of flawed twisted logic, stupidity, or hypocrisy on the character's part. To this, I must say it stems from a clear frustration in the character's humanity. Once again, we must look towards world history and observe these behaviors. Camus-type characters are often the epitome of chivalry, and what it means to be a knight. Though Fire Emblem is a Japanese game series, many aspects and values of chivalry and knighthood can also be observed in samurai, of which the Japanese are much more familiar with. One of these aspects is unquestionable loyalty to their masters. Truthfully, many samurai were backstabbers and plotters, particularly in the Sengoku Jidai. However, much like European knights, values such as loyalty were still expected to be followed. And as such, there were also many who upheld those values to the extreme, even if they disagreed with their lord, or if it were to cost their own lives. They were expected to carry out orders no matter what they might be. A character like Camus, who most likely has been raised in an environment where such values were expected to be upheld, has reasonable justification as to why he would stick with his country. As the epitome of knighthood, as well as the leader of a famous order of knights, it makes sense why this would be the case. It might seem stupid or irrational, and to a certain extent it is, but that is because we of current times might not understand the values and beliefs of characters like Camus. After all, how many of us live in a feudal society and have lived our lives living up to the expectations and pressures of a true knight? Today, our society has values and rules that, maybe in the far future, might seem stupid and irrational. Camus represents those willing to live up to such rules and values to the extreme. Of course, we also have other characters like General Lorenz, who represent those who are willing to possibly disgrace themselves and fight for what they personally believe to be right or just. Just like in history, there have been people who have changed sides for whatever reason they might have, whether it was for personal righteousness or for profit of some kind. Again, look at the Sengoku Jidai for examples. I recommend looking up the entire events surrounding the Battle of Sekigahara, but really, Sengoku period Japan has many stories of betrayal as well as unquestionable loyalty. Of course, not all Camus-type characters stick with their side just for loyalty, and they might have very personal reasons to do so. An example would be General Selena, who remains loyal to Emperor Vegard, mostly fueled by her positive past experiences with him. For us, we might not understand that and find it stupid that, unlike General Dussel, she does not perceive that her emperor is no longer the just man it used to be and change sides. Well, deep down Selena knows her emperor is no longer the same man, but she has made the choice to follow him no matter what. There is no way to experience the same emotion Selena might have felt that led to this great loyalty. We can only trust that, no matter how wrong and emotion-driven her loyalty might be, she feels so strongly about the past actions of her lord, that in her head, it is truly justifiable to keep following him. Of course, this does not excuse her actions, but like many other characters, it answers a very important question. Why? After all, a person does not need to be excused for them to feel justified in their actions. And with this, we come to the next and main point of this video: humanity. Humanity is many times irrational, emotion-driven, and biased. Let's keep in mind that there is logic behind irrationality. This is something that we must accept. Humans are flawed. make mistakes, contradict themselves, are emotional and may be hypocrites. I'd even argue that anyone is probably a hypocrite in one matter or another. That's just human, and we must embrace and accept our flaws if we wish to move on from them and become better people. Unfortunately, some do not live to see themselves change, a fate that many characters of the Camus archetype share. Since the beginning of the series, the Camus archetype has been one of the main representatives of grey morality in Fire Emblem. Though I believe Fire Emblem in general has long abandoned any dependency of it to portray such moral themes. To me, the Camus archetype represents above all that there exists good people on any sides of a conflict, whether they may be just misguided or have other personal reasons. Of course, the concept of good and evil is very subjective, and different people have different views on what good and evil are, and will judge people differently. In the Fire Emblem series, we can see many successors of Camus' legacy, even if they are not really part of the Camus archetype. Morally grey characters who will fight the player for many different reasons they might feel strongly about. Some fight for what they believe is the best course of action for their people, like King Travant, Emperor Rudolf, Edelgard, or Rhea. Some fight for the love, loyalty, or duty they have to their masters or country, like Reinhardt, the Dragon Generals, Micaiah, Lavale, and as we've established, Selena. Others might fight because they were misguided, manipulated, or taught to believe they were in the right, like Path of Radiance Jill, Berkut, Fernand, Lloyd, and Linus. Others might fight because they feel like they have no other choice or loved ones in danger, like General Shiharam, Mustafa, and Zeke. Whatever the reason they might be fighting for, it's that they do so, not because they're evil people at heart, not because of some shallow thirst for power, but because they feel justified in doing so. And if you think about it, more and more Fire Emblem characters come to mind, some being more subtle than others. I have found that the simple fact that so many people have such divisive and vastly different opinions on Edelgard, with many arguing that she's good and many arguing that she's bad, is proof that she's neither and is instead a grey character. No matter what you might think of her, there's no denying that she has many supporters and haters, just like real-life world leaders. Often, such complexity causes a lot of debate and discussion, and it truly proves that Edelgard is a human, and humans are morally grey. Edelgard is such a complex character, she deserves an entire video just for her, so be on the lookout for it, though I won't promise when. In contrast, I've never seen anyone truly support Garneth as being on the right. Likewise, you don't see people argue whether what King Garon does is right or wrong. The answer is obvious. King Garon is an evil, possessed king who merely wishes to subjugate others. Even Mad King Ashnard is a good guy compared to King Garon. At least Ashnard wanted that with his conquest, he would change society to one where the strong would rise to the top, therefore creating a meritocracy based on strength. Even if Ashnard is an awful person, his thirst for power is backed up by a firm belief that what he's doing is for the best. Meanwhile, King Garon is literally possessed, and unfortunately, Fates doesn't really execute the whole "he used to be good before" well enough to be believable. As I always say, in writing, execution is the most important part, as a good writer can make anything work. This isn't to say that a purely evil villain is a bad character. There is a place for those as well, though I admit I am biased to enjoying morally grey characters more for their humanity. As you can see, in the Fire Emblem series, grey morality is more than the Camus archetype. Yet we can always look back at Camus when thinking of an example of morally grey, that war isn't about good and evil, that real life and humanity isn't good and evil. It is about beliefs, ideals, misunderstandings, emotions, knowledge, truth, and illusions. Humanity is fascinating. It is both amazing and awful. Humans can love, can kill, can protect, can hate, can create, and can destroy. Humanity is morally grey. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to consider subscribing to be notified of future videos. Additionally, if you like the themes discussed in this video and like reading, you might be interested in reading Gwendolyn the Errant Knight. It's a completely free-to-read novel I'm writing. It's about a knight who turns her sword against her own country and comrades to fight for her own ideals of knighthood. I'll be updating it with more chapters in the future as I write more. Feel free to share your thoughts and feedback. The links will be in the description. Without further ado, farewell.